Welcome, everyone. We're going to take a look at initiatives tonight. This one got a lot of interest when I did a post on it. A lot of ideas on the best way to do initiative or different ways to do initiative. We're going to see if we can distill down to really what some key points are to make it fun at the table, right? That's what we want. Uh, Andrew, he said, I just need one that doesn't make it worse. The only thing that really matters is that everyone gets a turn, which ironically is not how Dagger Heart's doing their initiative. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We can look at how did initiative work in all the different systems of D&D and MCDM and Shadow Dark and Crown and Skull. What are all these new systems doing, or what are new ideas for doing initiative? And my goals for initiative is make it happen quickly. Give stakes to the roll, the initiative roll, and that's one thing that 5th edition doesn't really do. There's really no stakes there. Everyone's rolling their initiative separately. No one knows what the other person's rolling or cares really much about what other people are rolling. Encourage speed of combat. I really like combat to just be boom, 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 boom. You can see your turns coming up. You act on your turn quickly, and it just really keeps it feeling like it's cinematic that way. When it gets into every turn's a debate, oh man, I don't like that. I know some players like to debate, but if you're trying to like replicate the speed of what's going on in combat, you just don't have time to debate what you're doing in a combat round. So those are my goals. The system, so AD&D, there's really two main types of initiative. There's side initiative, where you go back and forth between two sides, or you do everyone on a side, everyone on the other side. And then there's an individual initiative where there's like this spectrum and everyone's going on their own turn. That can either be set, or you can determine it every round, or you can also determine it with like the speed factors of what people are doing. We'll look at some of the systems of what they're doing there. So AD&D side initiative D6. Let's look at that AD&D initiative here. Let me show this tab. So first they had surprise, but then once they got past surprise, everyone would roll a D6. And the scores for the two parties are compared, and the rolls are made in the open. The higher of the two rolls gets the initiative, and it even says, while it's not accurate to roll one die for all individuals comprising each party, it's convenient and necessary expedient. Separate rolls could be made for each member of two small groups, for instance, but what happens to this simple, brief determination if one party consists of a whole bunch of characters and the other party's a whole bunch of characters, it can get really bogged down. And that's what happens in 5e, right? You got to, as the DM, start grouping these things together. And if you actually had played adventures with 9 characters, it gets pretty out of hand pretty quick. And then if they start adding henchmen, even worse. So possession of initiative allows the individuals to take action or reaction as desired. Now, one of the main drawbacks to doing side initiative in a game that's really high powered like Pathfinder or 5e is that if the whole party gets to go before the monster's going to go, they can just lay to waste a monster. That wasn't really the case in first edition. They didn't have that kind of power disparity against the monsters. Hi, Nick. Thanks for chiming in. Initiative systems that involve the players debating is just a red flag for me. I much prefer something set and everyone knows their turn. Oh, David here. Hey, David.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry, I had you off
Major
there.
equipment problems this today.
Okay, so you mean okay, David?
You
hearing me okay?
Yeah, you come through loud and clear.
Very good. Okay, so the interesting thing about first edition D&D with initiative, even though it was side-based initiative, if you go further in the Dungeon Master's Guide, it went into what happened when creatures had multiple attacks. And you didn't get to take all your attacks when your side went. So you would take one of your attacks, the other side would go, and then if you're a fighter higher level, then you get your other attacks. So you didn't have this thing where you just supernovaed like a paladin where, smite, or like a monk, strike 4 times and try and knock someone unconscious, try and stun them 4 times, or God forbid, a sharpshooter fighter action surge and take 6 shots, and every one of them hits because he's got his precision die if he needs it, but he might be also a bugbear and these do an extra 2d6 every attack, or he might be a Gloomstalker or a Samurai. It just gets way out of hand if the party gets to do all their actions in 5e. So that wasn't a problem in first edition because they broke up the attacks like that. So when they went to second edition, let me go back to that. And David, you can chime in here anytime.
Yeah, I think first edition was sort of a trend. Originally, D&D had sort of simultaneous initiative where it really harkened back to the wargamer roots, where they were, each side would do their attacks. They'd declare what they planned on doing, and then you'd apply the results at the end of the round. It was very wargamery,
Yeah.
and really trying to, made
and
a
the
lot more
role
sense
of
for big groups of people.
Yeah, and the role of DM kind of came out of where they would have referees to kind of reflect the fog of war. So the different sides would give orders. The referee would then say, okay, this is how those orders are going to turn out. And it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't turn out like you thought it would turn out. And you didn't know what the opposing force was. And so that's kind of how the Dungeon Master kind of came into the system a little bit.
There's kind of a fun mayhem to that kind of thing with
Yeah.
declaring actions
Yeah.
and simultaneous, not exactly simultaneous because we're only human, but a little bit of simultaneous actions and things going off that maybe people didn't plan. I've never played that way, and I don't think a whole lot of people who are playing D&D, even through AD&D, were playing that way. One
I
of
have
the
to confess, I played AD&D from 79 to 88, I think. And I don't recall the details of how we did combat. I don't recall I know we went through stages where we had weapon speeds and then didn't use weapon speeds and, you know, use spells, segments, casting and stuff like that, or didn't use them because there's always optional rules coming out in Dragon Magazine and we were always kind of iterating on how we wanted to play. So I don't remember exactly what our main way of doing it was.
I can't remember either from what way we were doing it from those days, but I think we might have lingered on the Holmes basic method of just going in order of dexterity.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was really quick. You could seat people around the table in order of their dexterity
Yeah.
and just slot the monsters in wherever they happen to be. You had to roll dex rolls for the monsters, so that was a little cumbersome. But and then you got what you were talking about with AD&D and its side initiative system, that everyone played differently because the actual system is so complicated that it's really unplayable. And I know there are people out there right now watching this video who are incensed that I would make that claim, because I did a post on the AD&D initiative system a while back, and I got exactly that feedback. How dare you say I wasn't playing by the rules? It turns out I uncovered like a 10-page footnoted document that was the rules as written, rules for AD&D initiative, and it's just completely unplayable. It is the most arcane, elaborate, incredible set of exceptions and corner cases that you could possibly imagine.
So in 88, second edition came out. I remember I was in college and I picked it up my first year of college during, I think, Christmas break. Might have been then. And they had still side initiative using a D10 now instead of a D6. Although they had a lot of optional rules that included weapon speed and spell speed and individual initiatives. So there's a lot of variation there still. And the neat thing, one of the biggest things, is there's some stakes to that initiative roll. The whole table is going to be kind of leaning in and seeing, okay, what's our initiative roll? Are we going to beat the DM and all get to go before they go? And that's neat when you can get some stakes into a game. But when it came to third edition, everyone had individual initiative. They rolled a d20, they had their dexterity modifier, and everyone's doing that individually, and no one's paying attention to anyone else. And there's really no stakes in the roll. There's some a little bit for you personally, but you don't have the whole table erupt and cheer and like, yes, we needed that win because otherwise we're all going to die. So that's one neat thing about side initiative. Now, the nice thing about individual initiative is you set it, and you're going in that order. And in theory, you can go really rapidly. The key, though, is you have to be kind of really proficient and strive as a game master to get that initiative sort done very rapidly, because otherwise it's just a buzzkill on the game. You're
Right.
about ready to start in a big combat. Okay, roll initiative. And it just bogs way down. And the second thing is you need to display to the players the initiative order, or else you lose any benefit of having a set order. The players don't know their turn's coming up. And there's a number of ways to do this. I know Dave's got some ways. Let me share mine, what I did here. This is from the D&D Championship, 2012, I think it was. And these cards down here are our tracking initiative. Every yellow card is a monster. Every green card is us. And we actually would track this in the game so we knew what order we were going in, and we could play very rapidly. I mean, we didn't know the order until the first round happened because the DM knew what the monster order was. But as soon as it happened, we knew it from then on. And then here's me playing at Winter Fantasy in 2017. You can see the little initiative cards out there. So every player around the table can look and see when their turn is coming up. And then this is kind of a close-up of the cards here. So if you read from right to left, I have green cards for the players. They can see their name. They see the order that they're in relative to the enemies. I get their initiative modifier. I have them pre-rolled initiative. So you can either, and I know Dave, you do this. I think you roll like 6 initiatives before you start.
I have everybody roll other initiatives before the game.
So what I'll do is I'll hand these green cards out to the players. And I say, hey, roll an initiative and toss it back to me before we're ever in combat. So I grab those cards and I have them set out. And I know what the monster order is. Either I'll roll it while they're talking, or I'll have it pre-rolled already. And this is like going through a round. If I had started going through a round, the player goes first, then odd numbered spies go, and then the mage goes. And I would just kind of slide a card up to show whose turn it was. So pretty easy there. And for creatures that hadn't gone yet, I can just flip the card so the players don't see it, but I see it. So I know what's coming up when they go. The players know a monster's going to go. They just don't know which one. And then when that monster's turn comes up, I flip it up. They can see it from then on. Back in the 3rd edition days and 4th edition days when we could delay, I would just, drag the card to wherever they delayed to. Super easy, super fast. And then once combat was over, I toss the cards back out and say, roll the next initiative. And so when we got to a combat encounter, it was instantly into combat. No delay, no buzzkill, and everyone knew what their turns were going to be. And so some other ways of doing that, of course, Pathfinder has this combat pad, and they kind of do, they have these, orders where you can kind of slot in what initiative it is and take notes and such. This is hard to display to the players, so that's the one drawback there, I think. Then you have some of these turn trackers that are vertical, and the players can see who's coming up in turn order. That's good. And then you have some DMs will do it over their DM screen. I think that's what you do, right, David?
That's what I do.
You can see it over the DM screen, and the DM can sort them, and if they have a pre-rolled, no delay, you just get right into combat. So that's the individual initiative. It can be rapid. There's no stakes to the roll, though. And it can be slow if the DM doesn't make an effort to make it fast. I mean, even Matthew Mercer doesn't really make much of an effort to make it fast, nor display it to the players. You would think, he would. He'll say something like, okay, anyone knows 20 or above, tell me what your initiative is, and he writes it down. And 15 to 20, then he writes it down. And that just takes a long time. And it doesn't have to be long like that. You can find a way to make it really fast.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of merit to like you said, Tom, to dispensing with the whole initiative ritual as something that is preloaded at the beginning of combat. There's a kind of a record scratch moment where you're rolling initiative, and just when it's exciting and the fun of the fight is about to start, you're doing all this administration, and especially if the DM's counting down initiatives and trying to put them on his own private sheet or her own private sheet. I don't like that. That's why I like to pre-roll, either like I do, just a whole batch of them, or like you do at the end of the last combat, roll for the next combat. I think there's a lot of merit to showing the initiative order so people can see what's coming up. I know it struck me first as a little bit cheeky to do what we were doing and keeping track of initiative ourselves as players, but in practice, there's nothing cheeky about it. I sometimes delegate all the initiative tracking to one of the players. One less thing off my plate. That person has a little bit more responsibility, a little more engaged in the game. They can kind of harangue players to be ready to go, and it runs much smoother that way. So that's a good trick.
Yeah. So you don't have to have that to do side-based initiative or around the table initiative. It's much simpler for the DM, but it's going to have some drawbacks inherent to doing it that way. We'll get to that in a second, though. Let's finish up our history lesson here on D&D. So, third edition came out with individual initiative. Fourth edition, as far as I know, kept it the same way. They both would let you delay your action, and this is funny because you could end up with side initiative after the first round if everyone delayed and all the players went last. But no one ever did that. They never wanted side initiative that bad. And then fifth edition came along, and they had no delay. Your turn comes, you got to go or pass.
And that's part of the direction of the game from third edition to streamline initiative, so people know and they don't have many decisions to make, to fifth edition where people know and have even fewer decisions to make. Yeah. And it's just, in theory, the whole system is optimized to make people go quickly through initiative, which, if you think about it, it's kind of a gamey, artificial part of an exciting part of the game. There's some merits to just getting it out of the way and moving the fight along as quick as possible from turn to turn.
So there's some systems I can think of, Shadow the Weird Wizard. Of course, Daggerheart's this way, and we can talk about how that works. I'm sure I have this name wrong. GIF has an alternating system somewhat like Daggerheart, where you just launch right into the action. There's no initiative roll, but then you have a mechanism to alternate back and forth. Or Shadow the Weird Wizard, you don't really alternate back and forth. The monsters, you can use your reaction to go before the monsters, or a quick action to go before the monsters, and then it alternates. Monsters you, monsters you, monsters you. I think every round.
Yeah, I've played that system, and I like it a lot. The idea is you sacrifice a little bit of resource to jump ahead of the monsters. So it's kind of like side initiative with the players always going last, but with some players choosing to sacrifice their reaction or sacrificing their move, in the case of Shadow the Demon Lord, to go a little bit quicker. And it introduces a little bit of a tactical decision making in the whole process. Plus, it doesn't take a lot of discussion amongst the group. Everybody gets that fun decision to make on their own, because everybody wants to do both. They want to go first, and they want to do a little extra. So it's kind of a fun, interesting decision to start off with each round.
Some systems are just purely random. Troika is random. Savage Worlds is random. You're just drawing cards, and you go in that order. Shadow Dark is around the table initiative, and others recommend this kind of initiative where you just start with one player and you go around the table clockwise. That ends up being side initiative after the first round.
That might be the best initiative system of all, just to get rid of all the extra baggage from figuring out initiative every turn and just going around the table.
If you designed your game with this in mind, and I've seen a couple other people say, the adventurers are the ones with the initiative. They're the ones exploring. They're the ones attacking. They should be going first most of the time. And if you actually play D&D, they often do go first most of the time, because most of them have high dexterities. Most of them have feats. And the barbarians are rolling with advantage. So most often the party does mostly go first. Why not just say the party goes first? And if you design your system to be robust enough to take that first Nova round, then it'd be a fast way to do it. And you could certainly have a situation where the party's surprised and they go second.
But as you mentioned, Tom, D&D is a bad match for that kind of players always go first, because that means colossal advantage, especially with the D&D team thinking that players that go Nova and do lots of extra stuff on their first turn, characters that go Nova by doing lots of extra stuff on their first turn, is a great design space to explore in character design. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I disagree with that, but
Yeah.
I'm not the king of D&D.
So I was thinking a little bit about the side initiative, and if you can get stakes with side initiative. I don't know why both sides roll. Just have the players roll, the player leader roll a d20, 11 or higher. You guys got the initiative, or give the players more of an advantage. Say they got advantage on the roll, or give them something because they're the ones actually doing the exploring and the attacking anyway. And you can put something on the 20. You all can spend a healing surge. You put something on the 1. The monsters can all spend a healing surge. You get some real stakes in that roll, and it means something. If you want to do that, if you want to have a roll, because right now it's just everyone rolls dice, and no one cares who rolled what. You end up making a chart, and now you have your initiative. Okay, what else we got? If I scroll down here, I'll get to Mike Merle's. Mike Merle's did a system that had a little bit more variability, where you rolled each round, and it was like a speed system. And whoever rolled lowest went first. And ranged weapons were a D4, melee weapons were a D8, spells were a D12. Another idea is you could do spells at D4 plus their level, or D6 plus their level. And there's other games that use speed systems kind of like that. There's some games that use actual like segments in combat, where if you're really fast with something, you can go multiple times. If you're really slow with something, you might go once or twice.
Right. I think the peak of the simulation trend of initiative might have been something that I saw mentioned a surprising number of times when you asked about what the best initiative system is, the hero system, where the whole thing is a cycle where, some actions take fewer seconds in a 10-second turn and others take more. Obviously that adds a lot of crunch to the system, but I suppose it's a pretty good simulation.
If you like a lot of crunch.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I never liked about the side system was the declaring of actions. And they kind of and that was always kind of so you could interrupt the spellcaster was the idea, which they'd always say. And they kind of got a new way of doing that with 3rd edition and above with the concentration check for spellcasters concentrating on spells. So now you couldn't interrupt them casting a spell, but you could interrupt their concentration later. I certainly like something to get rid of having to make the declarations. That just feels like, oh man, another big time sink. Every round we're declaring what we're doing. I want to be able to just, my turn's next. The end of that round, and I'm going first next round, I'm going. It's weighted.
I feel like that mayhem, but I don't think many people did, because I don't think a whole lot of folks actually played that way, despite it being the rules.
Yeah. Andrew, hey Andrew, you may have already answered this, but how system specific are most initiative systems in your opinion? I feel like they're largely interchangeable. There's really only a few. You got side initiative, you got individual initiative, and then you got various mechanics if you have individual initiative where you can swap back and forth. Some systems will do a back and forth initiative for each individual, like BattleTech did that. And MCDM is doing that, or at least did that in their first playtest, where you roll for initiative by side, but only one creature from that side goes, and it goes to the other side. Dagheart's kind of the same, except the action's really almost always going to be started by the players. And then there's going to be mechanisms where it could go back to the DM, depending on how the players roll. And it'll alternate back and forth. And Dagheart's like the only system I think I've seen that allows you to go multiple times. Just,
Well, there's a popular sort of initiative system. I think one of the more recent directions in games devising initiative systems is sort of a narrative initiative system. And you can see that in the absolute loosest sense, if I'm not mistaken, in the like Dungeon World.
Powered by the Apocalypse too.
It's just completely narrative. You just talk your way through the story.
Yeah.
And whoever seems like they're ready, wherever the story goes, that's who goes next.
Yeah.
Wow, that seems like a lot to me, but I guess I've never played it. Um, in that whole narrative sense, though, a lot of folks talk about popcorn initiative. That's where the person who goes decides who's going to go next.
Yep.
And wow, if side initiative is potential to be lopsided in a fight, popcorn sounds like it could really go nuts because everybody could take a turn, and then on the neck, and then potentially, well, I'm not sure exactly how it would work, but I've heard that you in some of these systems you can take 2 turns before the monsters get a chance to go.
Yeah.
Um,
So I got the name for GIF. Giphy Glyph is the name of the person. Where's the initiative system? Taking action, crafting character. Life and death, exploration, darker dungeons. Well, his system is similar. It's like anytime you damage an enemy, the initiative goes to that enemy.
ooh,
And then if they damage you, it goes to you, and then back and forth that way. Except everyone gets to go once before everyone goes again. So of course you can game the system by not damaging anyone who hasn't gone yet, only damaging people who have gone already. But then he has
wow,
mechanisms to seize control back. And Daggerheart's kind of doing the same thing, where the GM has mechanisms to seize the initiative back. Even if the players don't roll badly, the DM can spend some fear and get the initiative back. So that's
yeah.
another way you can do it.
I wonder if it's really a net positive to put that much attention in the game mechanics on the initiative system, which, and the turn order, which, is kind of a artificial thing superimposed upon really a bunch of chaotic action where everybody's going all at the same time.
Yeah,
So do you
I agree
really
with
want to
you.
spotlight it that much?
I don't think there's a lot to be gained. It feels like it just kind of slows you down. You're treading the water. You're running through molasses. It kind of how it feels. And the one role that I think can matter is an initiative roll to determine the side that goes first. Because then everyone at the table is going to be watching that roll, and it's going to be important. But the system's got to be able to deal with the Nova round. And D&D, like you said, can't really deal with the Nova round. I mean, you can up all the monsters' hit points to deal with it, but that'd be a pretty big change for you to
Well,
make.
if the players are focusing fire, that's still not enough.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
like we've said before, most often, and we would do this in tournaments, all the players go before some monsters. And we would focus on those monsters to try and kill them before they even got a turn. Now, when you know all monsters go after you, now you get to pick which monster you're going to kill. You can pick the big bad one, which you don't want to see the chief dragon die in the first round. So the system's got to be designed to handle multiple rounds of full party attacks on the big bad guy without them dying. And D&D can't. They last maybe 2 rounds against a really highly optimized party. They don't last, and some only last 1 round. I mean, if it's like a wizard, they're in trouble. If it's a dragon, then they'll last. But yeah. So in the end, D&D, if you're going to do it the way it's written, do it fast. And then you really won't feel like it's a bad system, I don't think. There'll be no big role that matters to everyone. If you're going to do the side initiative, there'll certainly be a big role that matters to everyone, I think. And you can do the side initiative every round, and that can make some really swingy combats. If the same side goes twice in a row with everyone on that side going twice in a row.
oh, for sure.
Yeah, real big. And God, I wish I could remember our AD&D days if that was what happened. But man, is there some stakes on the roll when half your party's dead, and you better win the next round's initiative. I mean, the whole party's going to cheer, or you're going to have a TPK, in which case maybe you don't want that roll like that. Andrew says, I loved your 210 initiative, Tom, that you've implemented in some of your playtests and live plays. Yeah, so to clarify that, that's not an initiative system that I use. Let me show it. Let me pull up Roll20. Share this tab instead. Okay, so regular 5e characters I got here, they would just roll their initiative, it'd pop up the initiative tracker. Roll a couple of them, then you'd sort the initiative. If it works, there it goes. No, there we go. Then you sort the initiative, and you're done. So obviously, virtual tabletops make the sort of initiative extremely fast. You just have to do some extra effort when you're playing physically at a table to make it extremely fast too. Now, games like Daggerheart or MCDM, where the party can go in any order, and I think that's a huge drawback to these systems, that the whole party can debate about their turn, they can go in any order, that just bog things down. I mean, you can definitely get around that by saying, okay, we're going to go in the order around the table. You guys won the initiative, your side won, but it's going to be from left to right around the table. And then they'll be real rapid that way, I think. But in these games like Daggerheart, if you're playing on a virtual tabletop, if you're playing in person, you'll have discussions with each other while things are going on. You'll have side discussions, and it's much easier to do, and you can coordinate who's going next. And I just have a way to non-verbally indicate you're ready to go next. Add a BTT, I just have initiative 0, 1, and 2. And I just say, okay, if you are ready to go and you want to go next, hit initiative 2. And then when the next turn comes up, we'll look at everyone with initiative 2, and then there'll be a smaller discussion on who's going. If you want to go, you're ready to go, and you'll just go in the next order that, whatever the DM decides, whatever the order you are in the list, then you do initiative 1. And if you don't want to go right now at all, you just want to pass, you just do initiative 0. So it's just a non-verbal way to quickly get rid of those every turn debates about who goes next. And especially if everyone's very polite and it's like, no, you go. No, you go. It's like, just go. Someone go.
Kind of what we learned is everybody wants to go, and it tends to want to go.
Yeah, that's what it was when we were doing Daggerheart. Everyone was too. Yeah. They're like, well, all right, if I don't go now, I'm not going to go for a long time because the monsters we keep missing. The monsters keep getting to go. I'm ready. I want to go now. So yeah, it can, if it's Daggerheart was bad that way. MCDM wasn't quite as bad because you knew you were going to get a turn. And so, and you'd get your turn before any of the monsters repeated their turns. That's the other thing with Daggerheart. There's no thing stopping a monster from repeating their turn over and over. It's just up to the DM to decide they're not going to play that way, which is really odd. I don't know why they have that way. I mean, you can't complete your turn over and over in one action. It's got to go back to the players. But then when it comes back to you, you can do the same character again, same monster again. Same with the players. The players could just do the same character attack the monster every time. Okay, see, I believe only 5e, which is the Crystal Adventure I've seen use side initiative, was Light of Xerxes for the Spelljammer battles. It really slowed play on the player's side. Yeah, I've always seen it slow play. Okay, let me go back to the outline here. I think I've pretty much covered most of the different types of initiatives. Any other input, Dave?
I think that's about the span of it. We started with sort of simulationist initiative orders with things happening simultaneously, and then calling out into segments and all that kind of stuff. And then switch to initiative systems that kind of get out of the way with, one roll at the beginning or no rolls at the beginning with just dexterity-based initiative. And after that, we've kind of seen initiatives turn over to attempts to kind of turn it into a narrative thing where, whoever makes sense to go next goes next, or people can sort of chain their actions together, potentially with teamwork or storytelling or that kind of stuff. And
so that's the one thing I might reintroduce to 5e is the delay, because then you can do teamwork. But it's funny that never... We would do that in the tournaments, the D&D tournaments. We'd make sure we were like acting with most of our characters acting right before the cleric went. Or no, right after the cleric went. That way, if one of our characters was brought down by a monster, the cleric could heal them before their turn. So we'd kind of, if it made sense, we'd try to delay until after the cleric. So that's, and you can't do that with 5e. Now the cleric can ready in action to heal you when your turn starts. That's not really legal, but Yeah,
that was fun from a strategic standpoint, but really when you think about what's actually happening in the fight, it's probably gamey aspect that I'm not sure it makes sense for the game to call a lot of attention to.
Yeah,
So
it
I have
is
mixed
very
feelings
gamey
about
to get
that.
in all the minutia of
Yeah.
initiative. Just take your turn and go, or
And
don't.
everybody's theoretically doing something during the same 10 seconds. It's not a
Yeah,
chain where people are freezing until it's their turn and then springing into action, even though
yeah,
that's how it plays, because again, we're human
yeah.
and that's all we can manage.
And that's where, if as a DM you can be really fast for your players, then they don't mind the fact that they have to ready an action for when the next person goes, because it's going to happen right away. Versus when a round takes, you know, multiple minutes for every person's turn, and there's a lot of debate over what you're going to do, it feels like you better do something now. Don't wait. Um,
Tom, do you have any sense that with more fluid initiative systems, with like, what I was talking about, the popcorn initiative where somebody hands the initiative baton to somebody else for the next turn, do you have any sense whether that would keep people more engaged because nobody knows exactly when they're going to go next? Or does it just exacerbate the problem of people checking out and then waking up on their turn?
I think it might exacerbate. There's really a night and day difference between some players too. I've noticed there's players that I can kind of tell are watching what's happening, and when their turn comes up, they launch into their action. They've been planning it. They know what they're going to do, and they do it. And that's so much fun as a DM to have players that are like that. The players that are like, "Oh wait, where are we? How big is the room again? What's that thing over there again?"
Yeah,
That's so painful as a DM.
catch me up. What's going
Catch
on?
me up. You've described it, for the other 5 players already. Describe it for me too.
There is
Yeah,
there is a technique that I do like to use as a DM, is to kind of to do a quick a catch up when somebody's turn starts.
yeah,
Tell them what the big emergency on the table is, what the urgent thing is that they need to call attention to. Your friend is about to be dragged into this volcano, and this other person is down on the ground bleeding out. What do you want to do?
yeah.
And I think that can dial up the excitement.
I think that's good. That's good
Yeah,
technique. I do something similar some of the time too. It's painful to be the DM and kind of aware of what's going on and know, oh, this character over there is dying, and if they don't help him next round, he's dead. And the next player to go is just oblivious to that, and it's
yeah.
just going off and doing some dumb action that doesn't matter. And you're like, oh my god, you're just going to let your other party member die? It's hard to resist telling them that's about to happen if they don't do anything. So it's good to be a little proactive, like you are a little bit. Like that suggestion, it's like it's your turn. You can see that person over there is dying, and this is happening over here. What do you want to do? At least now you give them a hint in a non-corrective way, I guess, that says, "Hey, dummy, go save your friend."
Right.
Versus, yeah,
And you can also call out what seems like the most perilous thing on the battlefield. The ogre over there just walloped your companion for half their hit points.
yeah,
That kind of stuff.
yeah,
Obviously, you can take too much of that, and suddenly you're slowing things down with too much description when you really want just the rolls to go.
yeah,
But I think it's a good technique for handing off the turns and trying to dial up the awareness and the interest level of a fight.
yeah. Now, one thing, and we talked about this a little bit: legendary actions and reactions. Um, it's fun to have like a few of those. Your character has one or two of those. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I was prepping the characters for our next Daggerheart game, and like everything they do is a reaction. You have like every character's got like they're only second level or third level, like 6 reactions to remember, 6 ways they could use powers that trigger on something else happening. Is like, wow, that's really complicated, and it'd
That's
be
that's dangerous, as we saw
yeah,
in the fourth edition days, when as levels got up and people got more and more options for things that they could do off their turn.
hmm
It just slowed the game to a crawl where, wait, I want to do this. Wait, I want to do that.
yeah,
And you just couldn't get anything done.
yeah. So that'll be definitely some recommendation I give them: is somehow dial back on all the reactive type powers, because there is a lot of them, I noticed. All right. So if you could do your perfect initiative, what would you do, David? How would you do it?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm ready to just have people sit around the table in their dexterity order and then weave in the monster actions between each of their goes.
Yeah.
So you just go around the table and after everybody's turn, you do
The monster
dexterity,
goes.
and then the monster goes,
Mm-hmm.
and the person with the highest dexterity maybe gets rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's too simple. Maybe that gives too much of an edge to the monsters that, if you got a bunch of zombies and suddenly they're going just next after all the much faster characters, maybe that's not fair. But boy, I sure like the streamlining of that idea.
Yeah. I, the more I think about it, the more I think I, I would kind of like side initiative, but with a known order. Like we're going around the table clockwise. We're going around the table counterclockwise. Um, but
If
but
you were to do side initiative, it would absolutely, you would want to set the order of the people who are doing the side, and everybody's going to take their turn on the side, so why not
Mhm.
just go around the table?
Yeah, yeah. You don't want it to be a debate every person's turn. Oh
Absolutely
no, I
not.
should go first. No, you should go first.
Mm.
And that's the other thing. When I'm playing a game as a player and I'm a wizard and I got a fireball or I got a sonic um, blast or some area spell, I'd never or rarely, sometimes I do, chime in and tell the players where to move. I just watch the battlefield evolve and use my spell the best place I can because I want it to be. I don't want to be like playing their character for them,
Mm-hmm.
telling them
That's
where to be
fair.
for my fireball spell. It's just like I might say, "Hey, I'm casting a fireball. Keep an open area in the middle there," and then let them do what they want and then adjust. And it's kind of a fun part of the game for me. It's like I'm watching. Oh, that's not going to work there. I'm going to move it over here. Oh, okay. Now this would work over here. Oh, they made room over there. Now I can do that spell over there. Versus, I'll see a lot of players, with spells just sweating every person's turn. You're getting my fireball. Get out of there. Yep. So that's the thing about going in just whatever order you want is you do the fireballs first, you do the healing maybe second before the fighter who's down goes, and then the fighter who's down goes. So it's nice that you can kind of set the order, but you don't have time to do that in a real combat. You got split seconds to make decisions, and you should be go go go. That's the way I like it when games are that fast.
Everybody's in the game world, everything's happening at the same time. So
Yeah. Like Andrew says, I just need one that doesn't make it worse. The only thing that really matters is that everyone gets a turn. And that's it, really. I mean, if you're going to do initiative for a fun reason, give some stakes to the roll. But otherwise, it's just minutia and bureaucracy, you know.
and when you say everybody gets a turn, won't somebody think of the poor monsters? Make sure they get a turn too, instead of getting Nova'd and one-shotted by the paladin who just
Yep.
got tapped by the grave cleric's path to the grave right
Oh
before
yeah.
the smite attack.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, I might jump into taking a quick peek at Vecna, in which case you'll have to
Okay,
leave, David.
well, I don't want the spoilers, so
Yep.
I am going to bow out. Have fun
Okay.
with that, Tom.
Thanks, David. I'll see you later tonight.
Okay, good deal.
Okay, so everyone in chat, 22 of you right now. If you're going to play Vecna, I will drop out now. I hate to see all my numbers disappear, but that's fine. So spoilers coming up for Vecna. All right. Vecna, Eve of Ruin. If you have any questions about the adventure, chime into the chat. We'll take a look at whatever questions you guys got. So the adventures for character levels 10 through 20. One nice thing I noticed right away in the adventure summary or running the adventure is the levels for the characters. Character creation, here we go. Existing characters. They kind of have a way in the first adventure where you can play your characters at 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, of course, which is what level they should be, or 11th. So that's kind of cool. That way you got a broad range. I know a lot of a lot of the campaigns by Wizards have ended around these levels. So people who've been playing for long time should have a lot of characters in this level range, a lot to choose from, which is kind of cool. I like that. Now, I did not like. I like Spelljammer overall for the feel and stuff. But I didn't like how the adventure felt like it was just hop on the bus, go to the next site, get off the bus, look at the site, jump up back on the bus, and go to the next site. Because the sites were so small, partially. This adventure, I think, is going to feel somewhat similar, but the sites are much bigger, much more expansive. So there'll be some real exploration of them. Um, I'd have to really look at the structure to see if you could kind of twist the structure around to do it in different orders, if the players want to do it in different orders. I really like Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and I think it's Aventier did a review of that one about how to like switch up the order so the players can go in any order. Because I really love that adventure, and to make it so it's not just a foregone conclusion which way the players are going to go would really give it a little bit more life there too. And I think this one I'll take a look and see. Um, if there's anything to do that way. So let's look back at the table of contents. We got Nick. I've read the first chapter. When are you running this, Nick? You're running it like next week or this week? Enjoying it, the outline of the story as a whole, yeah. Okay, so then another thing I noticed was in the adventure that one of the first things I looked at, because this was interesting to me, was in the monsters. So if we go to the end of the adventure, we'll look at the secrets tracker in a second, but let's look at the bestiary. And if I look at a creature that is a legendary, an Astral Dreadnought, it's got legendary actions. Back in Planescape, these new monsters they are adding, we're getting multiple reactions, which is interesting. Different people probably have different preferences there. You know, how do you remember to do the reactions? I guess you'd have to basically be reviewing the monster while you're playing. And they were even rewriting the rules like for Shocking Grasp. If you looked in the players' playtest for the Player's Handbook 2024, Shocking Grasp changed from stopping reactions to stopping opportunity attacks. So it looked like they were going the path of reactions, but now Astral Dreadnought's a redone creature, but it has legendary actions. They have some new creatures in here too. Let's look at one. A Spider Dragon, are they legendary? No. There was one though. What was it called? There was one that had that was for sure new, but still had legendary actions. I guess I could look at the monsters here. Lord Soth, he had legendary, but he's just a repeat. Cass is for sure new, right? Cass Betrayer. Cool art there by Ekaterina. Sorry if I say that wrong. But here he is with legendary actions. So did they drop it? Have they decided, nope, we're not going to do reactions. We're going to keep legendary actions. I'd be interested to hear if they give a take on that. Nick, you're running it a week from Friday. Cool. That's cool. You have to let us know how it went. No spoilers, but let us know how it went in the Discord. So let's look back at the adventure. So we talked about legendary actions, reactions. Vecna seems very similar to what he was in Don't Say Vecna. I don't know if his hit points were 272 or not, but he had some of the same powers. His dagger, I think, was named Afterthought. He had his counter spell still. His Vile Teleport. So I ran Don't Say Vecna using maps from Heroic Maps, and I tried to do like a running up the hill type into it. It was a lot of fun. Definitely recommend go check out those videos. Don't Say Vecna, running up that hill on my YouTube channel. Got a video on how I set it up. So I got like in the description of the video, all the map names that I used, and then a play video of us playing it. It was quite a bit of fun, actually. Okay. Wonder how the Book of Wild Darkness will play in. So if you've done the preview adventure, it is set in Neverwinter, and the first chapter is in Neverwinter, Return from Neverdeath Graveyard. Cool artwork there. There has been some complaints lately. Let me just blow this up in a new tab. Open image, new tab. Share this one. Okay. So here's this map. Each square is 5 feet. There are multiple large monsters in this adventure. So are they going to be squeezing down every one of these corridors? I don't. It's aggravating. Is it made this small just to fit the page? Why couldn't they use 10-foot corridors? I know there's going to be some people aggravated by that because they did the same thing in Phandelver and Below, and it's just like really. Um, so that's one thing I noticed when I was looking at that first chapter, and I haven't done much else deep diving into it to see what else there is. That's a great piece of artwork there. Merid, who's a large creature with 5-foot halls all around him. Elemental, who can admittedly go through any size opening, doesn't have to squeeze. There's some demons in here that are large. So, got that. Now, there's a lot of content here. I don't know how many pages this is, but there's 11 chapters. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20th level at Eve of Ruin. That's pretty cool. One level per chapter. The chapters are pretty big. If we look at the Death House is a great location in Ravenloft. And I remember leaving the Death House and how the house came alive and tried to stop people from getting out. So it'll be interesting to see what they're doing in this version. Yeah, Nick. Some of the creature sizes in Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Oh yeah, they had the 6 Civac Draconians in their room. I think I changed that to fewer, and I might have put it some Auric Draconians in the room. It's like what's going on? Do you guys not play these adventures? I mean, if you always do Theater of the Mind, then you might not notice that. But I'm not a big Theater of the Mind person. Okay, so let's look back at Death House. Share this tab instead. The Barovian villagers confront the characters when they arrive, believing they're villains. That's cool. Some encounters. Nice. One thing I've also noticed with their high-level adventures, at least the end of Phandelver and Below, is kind of the encounters are too easy. I mean, the monsters are already the old monsters are already too weak in the damage they do, and there's not enough of them in the ending adventures. So you definitely want to beef them up to get a challenge. And I use Mike Schlei's what is it? Sly Flourishes, Easy Encounters, or whatever it's called, benchmark, and that's been working really good. Definitely been working really good. So Death House, you want to talk about cramped maps. Death House is amazingly cramped. I think I passed it already. Yeah, these catacombs down here below. Oh, this room D31. When we played that, they released a whole bunch of shadows down there. I wonder what that room's like now. Dark Lord Shrine. Nothing really there. I might beef that up with some really high level shadows to relive that encounter. 2 shambling mounds who can't follow you anywhere because they're way too big. Okay, then you got the Ritual Chamber, Strahd's Presence, Haunted Zones, Death House Hauntings. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a way that they can kind of bring in locations in the castle into the Death House, if I'm reading this right. You stand at one end of an impossibly long wooden dining table in the hall of a stone keep. Gilded plates, cutlery, goblets of blood red wine are set for each member of your party. That feels a lot like the reception there in Castle Ravenloft. Endless graveyard, ghostly recital. That's neat. Because yeah, Death House is pretty small, but it looks like they might have found a good way to expand it a little bit there. So that's good. The maps throughout are by Dyson, it looks like. Let's look at this one in the Neverdeath Graveyard. Dyson Logos, yeah. He does fantastic black and white maps. I definitely prefer color. So hopefully lots of people do extra maps of these adventures. So I'm looking forward to seeing some color maps for this, and maybe they can sneak in 10-foot quarters while they're doing it. But I mean, Dyson does amazing work. His maps are fantastic. And if you're doing black and white maps, some of the best. Definitely feels Shadow Darky to me, seeing these maps here. Let's see if there's any more questions for anyone. All right. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and research or read more of this. I might play it next week, as early as next week. We'll see. And later tonight, we're going to be playing Phandelver and Below, nearing the end of chapter 7. So we're going to finish that up and then probably go into Vecna after that. And that's it. Guys, thanks for checking out the video. Thanks for all the replies to the initiative questions. It was interesting researching that initiative stuff. And it made me think that, might want to give side initiative a try just because of that, the impact of that one roll. It really has some table stakes to it. So I'm kind of tempted, but if you're going to do individual initiatives, make sure you go fast as you can. It should not slow down the start of a fight, and it doesn't have to. It takes a little bit of effort for the DM, but it's worth it. I think your players will thank you. I think you'll find it more fun. There definitely won't be that pause waiting for the combat to start. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to check out now. Go get some dinner. Have a good night, everyone.